Hi, in this inter-VLAN routing video for your lab this week, I want to show you a couple of extra things besides the things that I'm going to grade. And I'm going to start up a packet tracer, as a matter of fact, a sample of the one that you're doing this week, the inter-VLAN routing. And as soon as it opens up, here we go. You notice all these lights are orange, which is typical. They stay orange for about 45 seconds while STP negotiates what's going to be what in these switches. But I don't want to wait 45 seconds. Down here in the very bottom corner, you see this little thing that's running time. It says 18 seconds right now. This little double-headed arrow, I'm going to click that and it's going to jump forward about 30 seconds and immediately show all those as running. So when you start up one of these things, you don't want to wait, or you want to make sure everything's converged in the way that it's going to be when it's in its running state, just press that fast forward button before you do things like testing pings and so forth. Another thing I want to show you is a very quick way to ping. Now to do this, I want to make sure that the bottom toolbar is on, and I'm going to go up here to View and down to Toolbars and click this bottom toolbar. Yours may already be on, but if it's not, you want to make sure this is on. Now I'm going to go up here to this closed envelope here, and it says Add Simple PDU. I'm going to click on that and then go down here and click on VLAN on this PC here, PCA, and then PCB. And you'll see down here that the ping failed. Now, of course, the first time it's going to fail, which is normal. So I'm going to do it one more time. And this time you see it's successful. So this is a quick way to ping without having to open up the computer, going to the desktop and the command prompt, and then say ping, and then, oh dear, what's the address? And you have to go over here and find the address, which it won't do if this window's open. So I'll hover over it now. 192.168.20.3, ping 192.168.20.3, and there's my successful pings. Now, of course, you learn more by practicing doing this, but by now you've done quite a few pings, and so I wanted to show you this quick and simple way to ping from machine to machine. And remember, don't be fooled by the fact that it fails the first time. Do it a second time, and it should be successful if it's going to ping. Alright, having that out of the way, let me show you the things that we're going to look at this week in this lab. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up one of these devices. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and open both of them. This is switch 1 and switch 2, and I'm going to go to the command line in both of those. Alright, see if I can get those two running side by side. Of course, it's not going to let me run them. There we go. I have to click down there at the bottom to do that. So I've got switch 1 and switch 2. Now what I'm going to be doing here after I log in is do a show run. And we want to make sure, of course, first of all, that your initial configuration is all in place. The host name, enable secret, no IP domain lookup. Down here on the ports, I want to make sure that this port is a trunk port. Now let's take a look at this one at the same time. Cisco EN class show run, and go down here to the ports. So fast Ethernet 1 on both machines should be a trunk port. As we go down, and notice these are shut down, that's good. And then we have fast Ethernet 11 being an access port, and it's on VLAN 20. Let's go down on this one. We have 6 being on VLAN 10 access port, and the others are all shut down. Now as we get down here to the bottom, we should have both of these having VLAN 10, but with the addresses 11 and 12, and then an IP default gateway on this one. Then we should have our banner and our console and telnet ports secured. So that's what I'm looking for on this. So that's the initial configuration, the trunk and access ports, the VLAN assignments on the ports, and then finally the default gate, the IP address and default gateway. The next thing I'm going to be looking at on these things is show VLAN brief. And on here I want to see that you have the VLAN created and that these ports are listed as being on that VLAN. Now one thing you might notice here is that there's no port FA0/1. Nowhere in this chart is FA0/1. Why? If this is a VLAN chart, why doesn't it show, well, which VLAN is it on? Well, that's because it's not on a VLAN. It carries multiple VLANs. It's a trunk port. And so in order to see it, I'm going to do show interfaces trunk. And this will show me all of my trunk ports. And here I can see that port FA01 is a trunk port. Now, we haven't talked about native VLANs and 802.1q and so on. This is a little bit more advanced topic, but that should show up as well. All right, so that's what I'm going to be checking this week in your labs. And one more thing I want to show you, and that is, you notice that I don't have this information here. I don't have what port or what VLAN all of these are on in the show run. Now I have, if I have assigned these, those will be there. Up here you'll see that we have this assigned to a VLAN, but it doesn't show what VLAN all these are on. Well, how can I, where is that information stored if it's not stored in the running configuration? One last thing I want to show you here is where that is stored. So I'm going to do a directory of flash memory. And here in flash memory, you see I've got three things. I've got the operating system, the image of the operating system this device is running. The config text, this is the initial default running config. When you first start up the machine, if you didn't have a startup config file, then this config text will set up the running config for you. And then your initial running config or the default running config. And then finally the VLAN.dat, and this is where VLAN information is stored. So flash memory contains these three things. And flash memory here is, it is updatable, but it's not volatile. That is to say, these things don't disappear when I turn off the machine, but I can write to them. This is very much similar to a flash drive that you might plug into a computer, for example. So flash memory is one of the 4 memory types on Cisco routers and switches. So I just wanted you to see that VLAN.dat file, and typically show VLAN brief is the way that you'll get information on what's in there, or show VLAN, if you don't want the brief version of it, shows you even more information about what's in that VLAN.